Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We are here joining you across New York State. I am Serena, the Executive Director of New Hour, and we are a nonprofit dedicated to supporting and empowering justice-impacted women across Long Island, New York State, and nationally. And as you can see, there are many dozens of activists, lawmakers, advocates, and most importantly, those of us who have survived incarceration and come back into our community to begin again, to serve others, and to never forget the women and men we've left behind. I went to prison at 20 years old, and the prison that you see behind our amazing advocates and lawmakers is Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, the same facility that I cannot forget. I left hundreds of women there. And 25 years later, we are still here to tell our women and people behind bars that their lives matter, that compassion and humanity matter. And we are joined here by many activists, movement builders, and makers, and also those of us who have survived and are here to give back. And so I'm going to pass it on to Tamika Mallory, my dear sister at Until Freedom. And we're going to begin to talk about what is a very urgent concern for the conditions and humanity of those people who are surviving at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. Tamika.
Thank you so much, Serena. I appreciate you for including me and having me here today. And thank you to the entire team who's been working diligently on this effort. Until Freedom, my organization, is proud to join alongside all of you to fight for the women, the individuals, the humans who are inside of Bedford Hills facility. Thank you all so much for joining. We are coming together today because there is an urgent and escalating crisis inside Bedford Hills. People inside are reporting that they are being denied basic human necessities, access to showers, meaningful time out of their cells, and real pathways to get home. Since the arrival of the Superintendent of Security, Michael Blot, conditions have only worsened, and the consequences have been devastating. In fact, over 4 weeks, 3 women have died, 2 of them by suicide.
Thank
Serena.
Thank you so much, Tamika. And when we are thinking about the women behind bars, this suicide was not, it could have been avoided. And I'd like us to begin by taking a moment of silence for all of the lives that have been lost at Bedford, but most importantly, including the 3 deaths in 4 weeks, Manny Morgado, Tracy Morales, and Shamdai Arjun. They were loved and their lives mattered. Manny was an artist, and she cared deeply about her community of women at Bedford. We hold them and their loved ones close to our hearts and advocate today to prevent having to say one more name, one more life taken, as a direct result of inhumane conditions, systemic neglect, and failure of accountability. We would like to hold a moment of silence on this virtual Zoom. And as we are doing this, you can see live at Bedford, we are also seeing Assemblymember Burdick, who cares deeply about the women at Bedford Hills. They are in his district. He thinks of them as constituents, just like everyone else in that area. And we're going to go to Bedford Live to hear what he has to say about the conditions that are happening at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility.
And so many of them now are suffering from mental health disorders. And so that has to be treated. Not doing anything for society, not doing anything for the women incarcerated if we're not addressing those basic human needs. And I think we all know that mental health disorders are rampant for our society, rampant. And so we truly need to address that. And I am very optimistic that we will get an impartial and thorough investigation of this. And I can tell you that I will be pressing very hard, as will Senator Harckham, and as will my colleagues, Dana Levenberg, and others who are in this struggle together to bring about the reforms that we need. And when we talk about being sponsors, co-sponsors of legislation, this is not a get out for free card. What it is to give people a chance, give people a second look, give people the opportunity to be evaluated on what has occurred in their lives. I am a huge believer in rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is supposed to be the Department of Corrections. It should not be solely what they're doing is focusing on punishment. How is that making society in that? And so what our goal is to provide tools so that we actually have a safer community. So that these women, and well, granted, not only the women are going to be able to do this, but given how a great number of them are going to be able to rehabilitate and return to their communities as productive members of society. So I do want to thank all of you so much for being here, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Was Karen just? Karen, Jesse? You guys want to? Well, Karen was just first, yeah.
We would like to invite everyone to form a circle and learn the practice of circle keeping as a way to create equal opportunity. Right, you hear what's happening at Bedford now, dozens of folks joining to call for conditions to be changed. And we'll hear more from those who are at Bedford a little later on during this press conference. Now, I would like to take a moment of silence for the women that we have lost. And so please remember that we are here joined today because we are asking for basic human rights, basic health standards. And certainly, Manny did not deserve to take her life simply because she received a ticket for having a piece of artwork in her cell. And what led to her desperation was truly the fact that she would have to go into general population out of the honor floor she lived on for 17 years as a 60-year-old, active, vibrant woman. She was so desperate at the idea of not having access to daily showers, to recreation, and being locked in that she thought that the alternative, she had no choice but to take her own life. And so we are calling on our lawmakers, our faith leaders, our advocates, so many of us who have survived behind bars, to say the punishment is simply the amount of time you have to serve. It should not be that the conditions inside the facility create conditions that push you to suicide. And so we'd like to take a moment of silence for Manny and all of the lives that we have lost in our prisons throughout New York State due to deplorable, inhumane conditions. I'd now like to turn it over to Carmen Perez, the founder and movement maker of the Gathering for Justice. Carmen is an amazing advocate and leader, a porrerista, a friend of mine. And when I called and said to Tamika and Carmen, we must do something about the women at Bedford who call my office every day. We must do something. We've spoken to the commissioner for the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision in person. We must do something. And Carmen said, let's do it. Carmen and Tamika have led the Women's March, a national work, and are now turning their eye to support the women behind bars. Carmen.
Thank you so much, Tamika and Serena. Thank you for your sisterhood. Good morning, family and friends. My name is Carmen Perez Jordan, and I am the president and CEO of the Gathering for Justice and co-founder of Justice League NYC. And we are proud to join this fight with so many of you. I want to begin by saying something we don't say enough. When a woman dies inside a prison, it does not stay in those walls. It travels. It travels to her children who now have to grow up without their mother. It travels to her mother who now has to bury her daughter. And it travels to every woman who's still inside who now has to live with the question, am I next? That is the toll. That is the trauma. That is the violence of this system. But let's be real. You don't die in custody just because something went wrong. You die when a system stops seeing you as human. Right now, women inside Bedford Hills are being locked in their cells for days, denied showers, forced to bathe with buckets, cut off from their families. People are losing hope and ultimately their lives. As you heard Tamika and Serena mention, last month, 3 women died. 2 of them died by suicide. These are not statistics. They're not just numbers. They are mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, and loved ones. I have traveled to prisons across California, El Salvador, and in Venezuela, and I never thought that I would be here in New York saying that we are failing people in ways that feel familiarly particular. Because when someone dies in custody, you don't need a report to know something is wrong. You feel it. And what we're seeing here is not justice. So let's be clear. We will not allow another life to be lost. We are demanding the immediate removal of Deputy Superintendent Michael Blot. We don't want him transferred. We want him removed and gone. We are demanding the restoration of basic human dignity, family visitation, daily showers, recreation, and time outside of cells. And we are demanding change across every prison in New York State because this is a system. And we know what needs to be done. Pass rights behind bars, protect families' ability to visit with dignity, pass the CARE Act, and fully enforce the HALT Solidarity Confinement Law. Pass the anti-shackling bill and the breast pump access bill, and create real pathways through the Second Look Act, earn time, fair, and timely parole, and elder parole. Because we know, and what we have seen is people change, and justice must make room for that. But this is bigger than policy. This is really about who we are. Do we believe every human life has value or not? So those of you in power, including Governor Kathy Hochul and Commissioner Daniel, we ask you to do something now, not later, because this is not just about policy. This is about your moral leadership, and we will not look away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen. And we know that there are lawmakers who care deeply about the lives behind bars. Again, the prison sentence is the sentence. It is not a death sentence. And we have seen many people killed behind bars in this past 2 years. I'm going to pass over to Assemblywoman Micael Solages, a dear Long Islander, an activist and movement maker, but also someone who champions the rights of mothers and children and women. Thank you for joining us, Assembly Member.
And thank you, Serena. You have always been a good friend to myself personally, but truly an advocate for the most disenfranchised women here in New York State. So I always thank you. And on behalf of the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus, I thank all of you on the call for advocating, for always making sure we highlight and talk about the issues that for some they may be afraid to have this discussion, but we're not. And we're talking and having these contents in the week of Black maternal health. I want us to remember that. Right now, this is a week where we are acknowledging that Black women, regardless of their income level or status, are more likely to die during childbirth, a time where for other people it's joy, it's happiness, but for them it's trauma, it's disenfranchisement. And especially for women who are incarcerated, I want to take a moment to think about them and pray because this is not an environment to have children, and they are doing it in a lens where they are being disproportionately impacted by our criminal justice system. But I want to go back to the three women who have died at Bedford Hill Correctional Facility. Two by suicide, one by conditions that are tied to the policies that are being implemented. Those who are being denied basic human care and basic hygiene. This is not about statistics, but it's really about the mothers, the daughters, the sisters who are dying in a New York State facility. You know, the community that are represented within the caucus are disproportionately impacted by the criminal justice system, and we know that. When we talk about this crisis that unfolds, it's deeply in our hearts because it's our community, and we need to speak out. We need to make sure that we're solving many of the issues that are going and taking the policies that we have the power to implement and getting it done. We have had conversations about the CARE Act, the Second Look Act, making sure that we have more independent oversight and funding to make sure that it's within our reach. We have caucus members who have sponsored it, pushed it, and it's now time for us to enact these bills. We have a crisis that's going on because of the wildcat strikes. We have a crisis, people are dying, and we can't just sit here and talk about education. We need to start implementing these programs. We need to start implementing these laws. So I thank everyone here for really highlighting that and, having that sense of urgency. It's within our reach, but we have to push hard. And so I thank you and I encourage you to stay involved, but now it's time for us to really push. And so this session, we're going to be pushing for it as a caucus, and I need your help. So contact caucus members, be a part of the caucus. Serena, any resources that you need, you have my commitment, but it needs to change, and it has to change now. And we are going to be vocal on that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'll pass it over to Tamika.
Oh, there we go. Thank you so much for joining us. Next, I think we're going to hear from Assembly Member Dr. Anna Kellis.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you putting this together. And Serena, just thank you as always for being the powerhouse that you are, with such a huge heart. And for everyone here for organizing it. Tamika, thank you so much for helping to support as well nationally. And Carmen, thank you so much. I carry the CARE Act. I've been the sponsor in the Assembly, fighting with Serena. And as part of my work on this piece of legislation, I went to Albion about a year ago, and I went to Bedford in December of this year, and was profoundly disturbed by the experience that I had at Bedford personally, and wrote a 6-page letter to the docs commissioner. And the things that I highlighted, I'm just going to go through some of the things that really stuck out to me from what I was hearing from women, and the desperation that I was hearing from women, but also there was this consistent, no matter what floor I was going to, need to speak out on what they were experiencing, combined with a simultaneous fear of retribution for speaking out at the same time. And it's one thing to see that from one person. It's another thing to see that woman after woman after woman, floor after floor after floor throughout the entire facility. When you see it that consistently as a scientist, when you see it once, it's not really great data. When you're seeing something consistent throughout an entire building, the likelihood that there is something there is significantly higher, just from like an objective standpoint. So, that was really concerning to me. Some of the things that were consistently pointed out to me was that there was a policy change where they were now, whenever they weren't in programming or at lunch or meals or, the doctors, they were in their cells and the doors were locked. And the free time outside of cells, leisure time outside of cells in the unit had been removed. Now, one of the things that we know in the male prisons, they all, in most cases, maybe in all cases, they have TVs in each of the individual cells. The way men interact with each other, the way that they emotionally support each other is very, very different. In the scientific literature, even very, very different, needing a lot of personal time, a lot of their own space, a lot of quiet time. Women are the opposite. The social time, being able to support each other, being able to emotionally work through things, that actually creates mental health and support for women. And that had been taken away. The only TV time was an individual TV in the unit, and they would congregate around the TV, and that would be their social time. So to keep women in their cells and block them away from having that communal time, having that distraction, that leisure time that we all need sometimes, being removed was significantly affecting their mental health. But more importantly, they were being often locked in their cells as long as, and this is in the general population, as long as the amount of time that people are locked in their cells in solitary confinement. We were seeing women locked in their cells up to 23 hours a day, and this is in the general population. This is unacceptable. We were talking to women who had to use their own money to buy a bucket, and that bucket needed to be used for either food or to take a shower or to hold their ice. One bucket. They weren't allowed to have more than one bucket, and they were only allowed to have a bucket if they could pay for it themselves. And that bucket had to be used for all three things. So what if the woman had her period? She was bleeding in that bucket, cleaning herself because she was bleeding, and that was the same place she was being forced to put her food. That was what I was seeing. Not having open access to the phone, and when they went into the room that had the phones, a significant number of them were consistently broken. They were being told that the showers were being restricted to 3 1/2-hour periods of time. And it just so happened that those half-hour periods of time, 2 of the 3 of them were during times where there was programming. So if a woman was actively trying to rehabilitate her life, she couldn't take a shower. She had to pick between rehabilitating her life and cleaning herself. The morning session starts at like 8:15. Showers started at 8:45 to 9:15. The afternoon, that started, if I recall correctly, around 12:45. The shower window started a half an hour later. Both were directly during that period of time. The only shower time that was available when there wasn't also programming was in the evening, starting at 8:45 to 9:15. But only 2 women were allowed in the shower at a time. And if woman was trans and wanted to have the shower for herself, then there was only 1 woman allowed in the shower at a time. So only 5 to 6 people were allowed during that half-hour block. If you have 60 women on that block, then you may not take a shower for weeks. And I met women who had not taken a shower in weeks. That is unconscionable. That is not what we should be establishing and allowing in our prison setting. There was a woman that I wanted to speak to. There were several independent women who shared with me this story. Several women who had shared with me the same story, that when they go and take a shower, that there were guards that would stand in the shower stalls, in the bathrooms, while they were taking a shower, gawking at them, smiling while they're taking a shower, taking away, invading their privacy. There was one woman who went into the shower because she was scheduled for a time, she'd signed up for a time, and she was dragged out by one of the guards saying, "You aren't allowed to take a shower." When she dared to say, "I'm signed up," he dragged her out of the bathroom. At this point, she's naked, threw her on the floor. These are the stories that I heard from 3 separate women quietly interviewing them. They weren't talking to each other. They were all in their cells. And they all shared the same story with me, that she had her face smashed into the ground. And when I asked to interview her, I was not able to because she was in the infirmary. Why she was in the infirmary, I don't know. The people who were in the infirmary were going to be interviewed the next day. So I was not able to interview her. Why was she in the infirmary if that story wasn't true? These are just some of the stories that I'm hearing, besides not having full access to menstrual products, not having access to underwear in their own size. And I'm going to stop and just say, I wrote that letter. It took 2 months and a demand at the public budget hearing of the commissioner to respond to my letter. And when I got our letter back, I was told point by point by point that I was not telling the truth, that everything that I was saying was not true, and that none of those policies were in place to keep them in the cells or block them from having buckets, even though leadership in the prison when I was there acknowledged that those policies were in place. That is what we're dealing with. So I stand here with my colleagues saying, I want to see the CARE Act passed. I want to see that when people have their children, their infants, when people are pregnant, they are not thrown into solitary and told that they're lying, that they are given the support that they need. They are given the medical attention that they need to successfully have that child and to be able to stay with that infant, because the science shows that being with that child for the first 24 months is absolutely critical for bonding for the rest of that child's life. That the other bill that I carry, the Earned Time Act, is passed so that people who are trying to rehabilitate their lives can earn time off their sentence and get back into the community. I'm going to stop here. I believe very passionately in all of these things. Please, everyone who's listening, report the truth. We all are here sharing our direct observations. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your passion and all the information that you've delivered today. I think it helps to paint a very, very serious picture of what is taking place. So thank you, Assembly Member. We're going to move now to Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal. Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Tamika, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Serena. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Carmen. Everybody, Kalia, thank you so much for putting this together, both virtually and on in person, which is quite a feat because you don't see that working too often. So I'm Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal. I represent the Upper West Side, parts of Hell's Kitchen. I'm chair of the Housing Committee, and I've been in the Assembly for 20 years. It's kind of, every time I think about this, I'm shocked once again. Some years ago, I passed a law that said that when a woman is in labor, she can have the partner of her choice with her. Years before that, we said they can't be shackled. However, there is so much more to do, and we see the evidence of people saying, I can't live anymore under these circumstances. So when it comes to all sorts of rights and all sorts of privileges, they're not there anymore. And I think a lot of it is, well, first of all, the direction of the commissioner. All of this is happening under his watch. So his responsibility and the governor who appointed him. We also know that the new director of security, Michael Blot, needs to go. Deputy Superintendent for Security needs to go. So I went to Bedford Hills in December, and I know that conditions have rapidly deteriorated. I heard the guards yelling for no reason. I saw and heard about the forced isolation behind gates. These women were, I wanted to hug all of them, but of course they were behind bars, so we couldn't do that. They used to have privileges to hang out together and watch TV, to not be locked up for 24 hours. Those were taken away for no reason. This facility has the shameful distinction of having the highest rate of sexual abuse in the country. New York State's prisons are the site, unfortunately, of too many suicides, and they are a result of inhumane conditions as well as neglect. We can't abide by that anymore here in New York State. I carry 2 bills. One of them is about access to breast pumps, because we know, and I also carry another bill, which is about women who are being forced to be drug tested without their consent. It's the same lack of respect for pregnant people. And so the first bill is that they have access to breast pumps whenever they want. Surprisingly, that's still not the law. That's crazy. That's crazy. We all know, and studies show us that babies need to be with their moms. If moms have milk to express, if their baby sadly is outside the prison, they can still have the benefit of their mother's milk, but not if they don't have access to pumps at all times. So that's one thing. Another bill I carry is about not shackling women while they're being transported, and also allowing them to have a support person of their choice during appointments. All of this is standard for women outside prison. They don't lose those rights when they're inside. As Serena said, the punishment is being inside. The punishment should not be what those in charge heap upon them because they have contempt for them. And so we're gathered here, such strong women advocates and men as well. I see Reverend Green. We are all in this together. We will keep fighting. We will not relent. And our voices will carry for those who are inside and don't have that way to transmit their experience. But we will keep visiting. We will keep telling their stories. And we will say, no, not in New York State, not in Bedford Hills, not in jails. Nowhere are women, anyone really, allowed to be treated this way. But for the women that we know and the women who have taken their lives, we will continue this struggle because it's the right thing to do. And they deserve it. So thank you so much for all of your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Rosenthal. And we are so thrilled to hear that the breast pump access bill for women behind bars passed in the Senate. We're hopeful that we will be able to urge the Assembly and the Speaker to move that bill for access to breast pump for their babies. I'm moving now to our next speaker. We'll hear from Kalia Ali, who really needs no introduction, Muhammad Ali's daughter, but also a fearless, amazing sister and activist who's been out to visit us here at New Hour and has deep passion. We were on a call yesterday at 8 a.m. Because of her passion and her tireless advocacy for all people behind bars with her husband, Jason Flom. So Kalia, I will pass it to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here today. You know, I plan to say something different, but I'm not going to, speak the same words again and again. I think what's most present for me at this moment is Governor Hochul's responsibility. Let me be clear, Governor Hochul, these are not isolated complaints. They're lived realities. These aren't statistics like you. These are women. These are mothers. These are daughters who happen to be survivors. Many of them are not here with us now, and their lives at this point are beyond redemption because they're lost. These women that we're talking about have survived abuse. They've survived poverty. They've survived circumstances that most of us will never fully understand. And now they're surviving a system that is deepening their trauma instead of healing it. Governor, we are all seeing reduced access to medical care, reduced access to mental health, and increased confinement, while women continue to grow to be the largest population of people imprisoned today. These environments are just restrictive. They're also despairing. And this isn't correction, Governor. This is neglect. Again, women are the fastest growing population of incarcerated people in this country. And it's a system that was never designed for women in mind. It was built not for mothers to be separated for their children. It wasn't built, Governor, for survivors of domestic violence. Governor, it wasn't built for women carrying complex trauma. So when you remove the programming and you remove human contact, Governor, you are removing dignity. You are not maintaining order. And Governor, you are actively participating in dismantling hope. Governor Hochul, once again, this is your responsibility. And we're calling on immediate action for you to restore access to simple necessities, showers, programming, journaling, rehabilitation, adequate medical and mental health care, returning dignity to these facilities, Governor, in your state. This isn't a right. You know, my father once said, my favorite quote of his, it's on his tombstone, service is the rent we pay here for living on earth. Well, it's not with words, Governor, it's with actions. Because in the end, how we treat the most vulnerable amongst us is the truest measure of who we are. And I hold you especially accountable as a woman, Governor. Bedford Hills does not need more control. It needs more humanity. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Kalia. I think that your words move us all. I hear cheering outside as folks are listening. And it is certainly an issue of faith. And I'd like to bring Senior Pastor of Greater Allen AME, Reverend Stephen Green. And I just want to note that we have multiple faith leaders on this call with us across New York State. Thank you for joining us. Reverend.
Yes, it is an honor to be here, and I want to thank you all for pulling this together. We are standing in solidarity with our sisters at Bedford Hills Prison. The words of Martin King remind us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so we've come today to sound the moral alarm. I'm glad to be joined with fellow colleagues and clergy, like Reverend Kirsten John Foy, as well as Reverend Dr. Adolphus Lacey, as we surround ourselves as moral leaders, as moral leaders surround our sisters at Bedford Hills Prison. We're really calling upon the governor to now intervene. And I think we have to understand that where we are in this moment, that the United States incarcerates more humans than anywhere else in the world. 2.5 times those who are incarcerated are African American and people of African descent than white counterparts in prisons across this country. That from 1980 to 2005, there were 30 prisons built a day, as we've seen the increase in mass incarceration in this country. And so also my colleague, Reverend Orcella Hughes, pastor of St. Luke AME Church in Harlem, New York, is here as well as we join together as faith leaders from across the state of New York to really sound the alarm. And so from now to Pentecost, as we celebrate this season, if you will, post-Easter in the church, we are really calling upon our congregations, and we will be mobilizing our congregations to engage in daily advocacy, to call the governor's office to ensure that we are continuing to amplify the urgent need and to lift this concern to the forefront of our constituents and our communities in which we serve. And so I am grateful to be here. We are in full support of our sisters at Bedford Hills, and we are going to continue to sound the alarm. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend. And I just want to note that I met in person with the DOCS commissioner, and we laid our case about the conditions at Bedford. You've heard Assemblymember Kellis and many other lawmakers who have requested information about why the lockdown, why the lack of sanitary care, and we have not gotten a sufficient answer in months and months. I'd like to turn it over to Assemblymember Sufrant Forrest, a champion for healthcare and human rights.
Thank you so much, Serena. Much love to you, and thank you so much for your advocacy. Thank you so much to Laura, Tamika, for helping, get us on this call and making sure we deliver the message that not one more name, not one more woman, not one more person while they're locked up behind bars. Again, my name is Farrah Sufran Forrest. I'm the Assembly member for 8057. And I just want to say thank you to all the coalition members for your ongoing support, not only for my bill, for all the bills that are required to maintain dignity for people living behind bars. We're here today, unfortunately, because 3 women lost their lives while living at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, all in the span of 3 months. Now, as a nurse, I'm telling you, if we had lost life of over three lives over a month, that hospital would have been shut down, would have been called Department of Investigation, because these are sentinel events. Sentinel events, meaning they weren't supposed to happen. People who walk into a facility under state supervision with a mandate to what you call it, for rehabilitation. We are rehabilitating people. That means that there is a discharge date, and that's what's supposed to happen. They walk in alive and they leave alive. But apparently docs does not understand their duty to preserve life. And so our prison system is completely dysfunctional. We have massive staff shortages, prisoner abuse, and lack of care for prisoners who are simply needing basic medical assistance. And I'll tell you, as a nurse, as I walk through these medical facilities at the docks, it's trash, atrocious. Places that honestly, again, DOI should walk in. If JCO could walk in, any accreditation could walk in and just see what's going on. Docs should be cited. Last year, we had passed an omnibus correction reform bill in response to Robert Brooks' death. But that's not enough. We need Treatment Court Expansion Act. We need rights behind bars. We need the CARE Act. We need all the bills to prevent abuse of incarcerated people. Thank you so much. That's my piece. But we're not at peace.
Well, that's right. We are not at peace. Thank you so very much for your comments. Also, I want to make sure to mention that joining us today is Dr. Stacy Grant, who is the international president of Zeta Phi Beta sorority. And it is so important to have our sisters stretching across all different areas within our community able to speak about this. And so we've been talking offline about what are the next steps, already organizing, figuring out during this rally in live time how we will continue to advocate, as my brother, Reverend Stephen Green, has said. And so now we are going to hear from Laura Whitehorn, who is the co-founder of RAP.
Thanks so much, everyone. I'm so overwhelmed right now. I'm having both PTSD because I lived through very similar conditions, even though I was in the federal system, and someone who's out in front of the prison just texted before that they were also in the federal system and saw the same thing. And I think that the reason for that is that prisons are a killer. Prisons are a tool of racism. And I'm glad that that's been made clear on this Zoom, on this rally, because that is the function of the prisons, to destroy Black and brown communities. And if I had time, I could give you all the facts and figures that I saw personally during my more than 15 years in prison. And, it's very emotional to me also being on a Zoom with Kalia Ali Flam, because you can see I'm old enough to remember when her father not only, was a champion of boxing and all of that, but took responsibility. We were all opposed to the U.S. war against the people of Vietnam. He took responsibility and risked something. And I'm very happy to hear all the passion from our partners in the legislature. We have to make sure that that passion turns into action, and that we don't accept business as usual. And I also do want to say, not only does Release Aging People in Prison support all of the demands really passionately, but we don't have much faith that the Department of Corrections will change anything. And I think whoever just said that they had gone to Martuscello months ago and he never answered, it's a good example. And so that's why among these demands are 5 release bills, none of which is, just open up the doors or whatever the conservatives say we're trying to do, but all of which recognize personal transformation, the role that incarcerated people play when we take responsibility, which we do, for the damage that we have caused to our communities, to our families. We lead in a sense of personal responsibility. So the two parole bills, which we not only championed, but we wrote, formerly incarcerated people wrote those bills, fair and timely parole and elder parole, and the three community nut cages bills, the Earned Time Act, the Marvin Mayfield Act, and the Resentencing Act. We really need those passed, because I can tell you, and I think all of my comrades who are outside the prison now who did time also will say, the cure is release. The cure is to honor the people who have changed and allow us to come back to our communities. And I'm really happy we're doing this, and that we're showing support for the women, trans, and non-binary people in Bedford, because I can also tell you, going through all of those things, the showers, the guards looking, all of that stuff, which totally, brought it all back to me. When you feel that there are people on the outside who are paying attention and trying to make a change, that is a powerful thing. So the last thing I will just say is that we support all of the investigations, all of the camera bill, all of that. But if we don't support and fight for letting people out, and that includes, and you're right, it's Governor Hochul's at the top of this whole rotten docs system, if that doesn't include also clemency, and we should point out that she hasn't given a single clemency to a woman in all the time, then we are missing something real, because they look at HALT. We passed HALT, we fought so hard, and the cops were able to push back and reinstate isolation. So please, let's fight for every right of people in prison to have humane conditions, but let's also fight to let them go.
Thank you so much, Ms. Whitehorn. We appreciate you and your advocacy. I'm a fan of your work. And just thank you for staying on the battlefield for justice. I also just want to make sure to say hello and thank you and so much love to Sister Khalila Ali. We appreciate you for joining us and for taking time out of your life to be a part of this. And we know that with your support and with your engagement, we will make impact. And so, Serena, I'm going to kick it back to you. I wouldn't be me if I did not say, in solidarity with all of you who are outside at the rally, there in person, outside of Bedford Hills, no justice, no peace, and power to the people.
That's right, Tamika. We're joined by almost 100 people in front of Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, folks who have come from as far as Ohio. They've traveled early this morning because we know that our women's lives behind bars matter. Our people behind bars matter. And I can tell you, when I was behind bars, I didn't think anyone cared about me. And what I know today is that we care about every single life behind bars. We're going to hear from advocates who have survived shackling during pregnancy. We're going to hear from advocates and leaders like Jose Saldana and many others between RAP and CAKE and CCA and incredible leaders for the LGBTQIA community. And what is not lost is that with all of us, every single one of us, advocates, lawyers, activists, lawmakers, we are all calling not for anything radical. We're saying create humane conditions, create support for people behind bars. This is common sense. And frankly, the fact that this hasn't happened when we asked the commissioner and asked the staff many months ago, it is deplorable. And we are calling out our our folks in the docs community to make a change and give women the compassion and justice they deserve. So I'm going to hand it over live. We're going to hear from Bedford. Becca Figueroa, a champion and leader for New Hour, is here, and I'm going to turn it over to you all. And we are standing with you. We wish you were with us there, and we're cheering you on. We'll take it to you guys.
Are we live?
Yep.
Okay, we're live now we have over 100 people streaming in from all over the state. Thank everybody for joining us. My name's Isabella. I'm the advocacy coordinator at New Hour. I appreciate you guys all being here. I handed out some flyers to everybody that include some chants that we're going to say so the people inside can hear us.
Stand up, Izzy.
I'd ask if everybody can face Bedford and say these chants aloud. If you don't have a sheet, you can copy after me. So the first thing chant says, not one more life taken away. We fight for freedom every day. Not one more life taken away. Fight for freedom every day. Not one more life taken away. We fight for freedom every day. Not one more life taken away. Fight for freedom every day. Not one more life taken away. We fight for freedom every day. I don't know what you've been doing. People here, my people here, my people. One thing that's clear to me. These people here have unity. These people here have unity. I don't know what you. And break the silence over violence. And break the silence over violence. Break the silence over.
Okay, face this way, everybody, if you can. Come up. Yeah.
Don't just speak in it.
No form.
No.
No, please. Hey, come on. Oh, they can rap.
Woo!
This way. Yeah. Hey.
Okay. Everybody can hear me. Good.
Yes.
I'm Jose Salvana.
One mic.
I'm the executive director of the Release Aging People in Prison campaign.
Yeah.
I'm also formerly incarcerated. I was released from prison in 2018 after 38 years of incarceration. So I know what this brutality is about. I witnessed it. I experienced it. And there's one thing I want to say. This is very disturbing to me. I have to say it. We went to Bedford Hills about 3 weeks ago, a month ago. 25th of March. And what I saw there was beautiful. But what I didn't see was very disturbing. And it's the same thing here today. I'm seeing you beautiful people, elders. But I'm not seeing the same people that wasn't present in the visiting room. So, we have to deliver a message. Because we're trying to build a movement here that's going to dismantle this system of brutality. We don't care about the firing of one or two. We want to dismantle this system of brutality. So now, to the people that are not showing up, we got to let them know. If you don't think that's your fight, if you don't think that's your mother's, daughters, and sisters and cousins in there,
That's right.
if you're not concerned about that, then get the fuck out the way. Come on to the people. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. If anybody else wants to speak, we have a little bit more time. I open up the floor to anybody that wants to say anything. Please, your voices matter.
Thank you. How y'all doing today?
Hey.
All right. I'm speaking as myself, and we talk a lot about in movement spaces political prisoners. We think a lot about what it means to have served our community in a revolutionary way, but I'm here to say that I think that everybody who is incarcerated is a type of a political prisoner. We have systems in place. I had a sister who was just speaking about the systems in place, upholding white supremacy by every color. Okay, so it means that there are CEOs who are black, brown, and otherwise who are willing to uphold systems of white supremacy. We know that the prison industrial complex and the police system come from slave catchers. It comes from slave catchers. We are living in a time where history is disconnected, but we need to reconnect it. We need to reconnect with our ancestors who have already been doing this fight. The maroon societies that showed up to make sure that when it seemed that there was no way, we made a way. And so that's what it looks like for us to be here today, all from different parts of the community, different types of people, all standing together to make sure that we are not only asking for reform, because I'm not asking for reform, I'm asking for revolution. I'm also asking that we no longer are asking for anything. We are demanding the safety of the people who are within these prisons. We are demanding that the prisons themselves are closed and that we are not continuing to open prisons. That Mayor Mamdani does not open this prison in the Bronx. That there are no more prisons being open, period. But that we are creating solutions within our community. People like us every single day are showing up in our communities and doing that work. It is far too long. It's been far too long that those are not being respected and that we are not doing that work for nothing. We are doing that work for our liberation. So I want to say a chant that came from somebody who once spent some time in these prisons and left. And so I want you to repeat after me. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. Our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and protect one another. We must love and protect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chain. Nothing to lose but our chain. We have nothing to lose but our chain. We have nothing to lose but our chain.
Everybody. Well, my favorite F2L. I love that I think of organizations that I'm familiar with. Exodus, I'm very familiar with Exodus. And just being formerly incarcerated myself and understanding the difference between mental incarceration versus physical incarceration. Because the mental incarceration is very, very, very important. I know people that's physically incarcerated that's mentally free. I know people that's mentally free that's physically free and mentally incarcerated still. And I just want to say that I am one that's a publisher. I've released some books. I also, and I'm saying this to say because I'm touching the mental incarceration inside, because going to visit somebody up in Auburn and leaving and seeing Harriet Tubman's house, I got them to write a book from prison based upon them being in the same town that Harriet Tubman lived. Coming from showing people how to be mentally free, because that mentally free is important. And the second chance that we talk about is amazingly important. I'm going to tell you what my second chance was. Being incarcerated, I was putting in all these slips for the laundry, for the library, for all that to be a trustee. And about 5 in the morning, I get a knock on the door. Break his cell. You going with me? At that time in the morning, where I'm going? I was a chaplain trustee. And being a chaplain trustee, this is how God plants seeds. Okay? I'm a chaplain now. I'm the minister of the drama department of my church. Okay, and I am a deacon, right? So just to know that we need to plant them seeds in our babies. Because see, the incarceration comes from home first. So even we out here by Bedford, but we need to get into the male prisons too. You know why? Because just like they're separating the women from the family, they're separating the brothers from the family as well. Now I'm going to say this and then I'm going to let this go. People live in the project buildings, right? And they think that the building they live in is the project. The building is not the project. The people are the project.
So if you look at any stores in the area, you can't find no salt potato chips. You can't find sugar-free this, sugar. Why? Because it's set up for medical billing, because everybody in the projects got what? Medicaid. And so we know the pharmaceuticals is getting paid off of the minorities, you know. So what I see out here is us not being divided and conquered. I see so many different faces out here. And us not being divided and conquered is what we need. So we need to stick together, because we don't stand for something, we're going to fall for everything. God bless you.
Okay, yeah, she is gonna speak next, and then you, brother.
There's
Okay, afterward.
they just on this button.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Dr. Francesca Kaplan, and I am the founder of Family Systems Collective, but I stand here today with CCA. Incarcerated people are not forgotten people. There are fathers, there are mothers, sons, daughters who live lives and remain deeply connected to their families and communities. The 3 laws before us are not just policies, but they are pathways to dignity, fairness, and second chances. When we pass these laws, and they will get passed, we have to believe in that. We are choosing restoration over punishment and opportunity over cycles of harm. We must recognize that true justice strengthens families and they do not separate them. Today, we stand not just for those behind the walls, but for the generations who deserve a system rooted in humanity and hope. I am the daughter of an incarcerated Black man at Green Haven Correctional Facility, Patrick Bowie. I am the daughter of a Black man who's inside, but I'm here today for all of us, for everybody. So in community, we are here and we stand, and we shall continue to stand in community.
Thank you. Guys, we have 2 minutes for speakers, 2 minutes.
I don't need no bullhorn. Need a bullhorn. I talk loud. My name is Al, and I'm the Hudson Valley Community Leader / canvasser for rap. And to my comrades, Brother Saldana, they call me Sarge. That's why I don't need no bullhorn. Just to let y'all know, while I was on my way up here, I was the one that got the message about that coward, Blot. But do y'all know, on April 7th, Jameek Taylor, up in Attica Correctional Facility, Shatik Johnson, brutalized, killed, because they still killing us. They still killing us, and it ain't right.
It ain't right.
What do we want? What do we want? The only way we gonna get justice is to continue this fight. And like my comrade said, it's not enough families out here. It's not enough families. You have thousands of prisoners inside these walls of the New York State penitentiary system. And I'm looking around, and every time we're in Albany advocating, I see minimal family. We need to get these people behind us so we can get our bills passed and we can bring our loved ones home. In solidarity, I say peace.
Peace. Woo!
1 minute.
I'm
gonna say peace. Fuck that. We are in the midst of a warfare, and we have always been in the midst of a warfare. This prison looks like most of all the prisons that house women, and I'm going to talk specifically about women and people that identify as women, transgender sisters too. Because I feel that in the conversations, at times, we have been invisible.
Yeah, talk about it.
And it is 3 deaths recently, but there has been fucking hundreds of deaths that we might not even know. The warfare is not only of us. Some of us know about the 7 neighborhood study.
Come on.
Our communities are at these places.
here. Not only the families.
Right.
The guards. They're not correctional officers that go sit up for what it is. The guards are part of the warfare.
Yes, they are.
They just don't know it. Economic. That's why they come here. And we gotta call them on their complicity.
Agents of warfare.
Exactly. When you hear brutality inside prison, it's atrocious, but it's the norm. When you hear brutality against a woman, against a human being, against a mother, against a person that has already been marginalized and vulnerable, you should be really, really angry. But I'm not talking about the anger that calls on violence. I've done that. I've done time too. I'm talking about the anger that propels us into doing something, into action.
Yes.
We should be doing this at every carceral space more often.
Yes.
A group here, a group there, because it is happening also with the men. But to know that it's happening with the woman, you're not only brutalizing a woman, you're brutalizing a community. The women are the spine of the community. When we brutalize, when we annihilate, when we erase, and when we kill women, we gotta really come here enraged. But we gotta come.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone at Bedford, for joining us. Fearless, amazing activists. They're going to be holding up candles symbolically. And for the women who are listening on the inside, we're getting calls at our office saying that they are hearing what's happening, that they're grateful for our advocacy, and that they are listening. And what we know about prisons is those bars, they keep our loved ones in, but they also keep us out. And this is a testament that we will not be kept out, that we will stand up for our sisters, and that we will call the governor. We will ask for a meeting with the governor. She is our mother governor as she proposes to be. Then take care of our women and our families behind bars. To everyone inside Bedford Hills, we see you, we know you, we hear you, and we will not stop advocating for you to make sure that you have justice and humane conditions to live in, and that you come out of Bedford a better version of yourself, not a more harmed version. And I can tell you that wasn't my experience. I came home a broken person, much more broken than I went in because of the harm I survived there. We're saying enough is enough. After decades and decades, we want transformative change, and the people joining us, over 200 throughout New York State, are saying the same. Tamika, I'm going to pass it over to you, but thank you so much for co-hosting this with us.
Well, thank you, Serena. And obviously, none of us can know what you personally deal with after leaving Bedford Hills. But what we see today is a warrior, a fighter, someone who has decided to reach back and help those that are left behind. And we are joining with you proudly, standing with you and promising to see this all the way through, that we ensure dignity, respect, and human rights for the women of Bedford Hills. We should not be having this conversation. Those who are in charge already know that the problems exist. The work that needs to be done is something that should not be up for grabs. It should not be delayed. It should not be denied. And again, we will take action. We will see to it. I want to thank all of those who have joined us today, folks who joined obviously there in person at Bedford Hills, and those who took time out of their schedules to come and be a part of this conversation. I can tell you that Reverend Adolphus Lacey, who was the senior pastor of Bethany Baptist Church, texted me and said this was very informative and very necessary so that he and others can become true advocates for what we see happening here. And I also want to thank the other members of the clergy, Dr. Ursula Hughes, and of course, Reverend Stephen Green and Reverend Kirsten John Foy for joining, because I know the message is going to spread wide. And of course, again, Dr. Stacy Grant of the Zeta sorority. And so we've had a lot of folks to join. There's been a lot said, but now there is work to be done. And we all have been advocates for a long time. So there should be no reason that we cannot come together to fight and to stand for the women of Bedford Hills. If you hear us, know that we are with you. We will not back down. And such as many fights that we fought in the past. I mean, you know, my organization, Until Freedom, went to Parchman Prison in Mississippi. We fought hard to ensure that there were changes in that prison, and it has happened. There's more work to be done, but we have heard of great changes that have taken place because of the advocacy that we put in 2020 and 2019, and we're going to do the same here in this situation. Thank y'all so much again for being with us.
Thank you all. We'll keep fighting and we'll see you in person and live. We'll bring you updates as we find out what are the results of our activism. We are going to keep calling for change. And as you see, folks are still live at Bedford talking. Please take action now. nhli.me/change with the number 4 Bedford. Fill out that change.org, voice your concern, call Governor Hochul's office, and let's keep fighting in community together. Thank you all, and we so appreciate you. May you have a wonderful and blessed and movement-filled day. Thank you.
Thank you all.